Okay, so Daredevil Born Again has dropped the first two episodes of a 9-part season on Disney+. I watched the first episode and decided to make a short video with 5 general observations for the consideration of my audience. I've been fairly or unfairly shadow banned on YouTube since October, reducing the circulation of my videos by over 99%, so I don't expect anyone new to my channel, but in the offhand chance you fit that bill, first of all, thanks for your time, love your face, never forget our time together. And second of all, my videos typically break down movies and shows into the categories of context, storyline, characters, world building, and themes. I'm not going into a detailed analysis of any of those things in this video, but I'm going to more or less frame some general thoughts and observations into those categories, because that's just how I like to get down. So this video is spoiler-free and best suited to someone who may be thinking about checking out Daredevil Born Again, but doesn't want to go in blind, or doesn't have a subscription to Disney Plus and are on the fence as to whether that would be money well spent. I'm Dr. Balthazar, bullshit fake doctor and purveyor of observational logic, so kick back while I talk you through a few basic impressions the first episode made on me. Let's start with context. We always start with context. Context matters. The Daredevil comic book is run from 1964 to the present and is grouped into 8 general volumes, which further subdivide into story arcs that are made up of individual comic book issues. Think of the volumes like anthologies, the story arcs like separate books, and the individual comics like chapters. Even with a really successful comic book, you're going to have some volumes that are better received than others. And within those volumes, you're going to have story arcs that run a gauntlet of great to godforsaken. One would think this would be low-hanging fruit for adapting comic books into movies and shows. Take a volume that has stood up over time, find the most popular story arc within it, and build that into a screenplay. But where I see the machine breaking down with this approach is filmmakers and showrunners want to treat the source material like a buffet. So instead of taking a strong story arc and bringing it to life, they say, okay, I want some of the themes and plot developments found in story arcs from 1982, 1993, and 2015, some of the characters from 1965, 1988, and 2020, and of course my own self-indulgent interests and allegorical references as topical for this 15 minutes. Daredevil Born Again is a comic book story arc from 1986, Wilson Fisk running for mayor of New York City is a story arc from 2019, and the comic book version of the Heather Glenn character first appeared in 1975. A lot of the Born Again storyline was already repackaged into Netflix Daredevil Season 3, so I'm hoping that the title of the series is just a lack of creativity instead of an indication that they're taking the buffet approach to create a Frankenstein's monster with various disjointed elements from 60 years of previous stories. Another contextual point is the intermittent nature of the Matt Murdock Daredevil character in the MCU movies and shows. Netflix had the run of 2 seasons of Daredevil in 2015 and 2016, the Defenders crossover Dumpster Fire in 2017, and Daredevil Season 3 in 2018. Lawyer Matt Murdock made a cameo appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021. Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin of Crime, turned up in the Hawkeye miniseries that same year. And Daredevil proper appeared in the She-Hulk and Echo miniseries in 2022 and 2024, which hopefully you didn't see since watching those 2 shows qualifies as self-harm, and I want you to be okay. So how much of all that should the showrunners assume the audience is familiar with? It's not a good idea to assume they have an intimate and immediate knowledge of everything over the last decade. If they do, it will leave viewers lost to some degree. But it's no better to assume they know nothing at all since too much redundancy gets old fast. After watching the first episode, I'd say they're leaning more toward the let's assume the audience knows everything side. So factor that into your decision making, or like me, you'll either be pausing a lot to double check things against your memory, or just staring blankly at a character and wondering who the fuck? For the storyline, let's not even go there to steer clear of spoilers. Instead, let's consider a few film style elements. Film as art breaks down into 2 general categories. Film form, which focuses on the conceptual aspects of storytelling, like function, similarity and repetition, difference and variation, development and unity, which are the parts of the medium that interest me most. While film style constitutes the more technical aspects of cinema, like shot mise-en-scène, cinematography, editing, and sound. To make a compliment sandwich on a few visual elements, I'd say the fight choreography and cinematography were very good, the use of CGI was astoundingly bad, and the lighting of various scenes for dramatic or thematic effect was excellent. In the comic books, Daredevil swings around the city like Batman and Superman, but the attempt to portray this with some truly god-awful CGI was jarring. When it comes to the characters, the general talking points floating around the interweb at the moment are Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are brilliant in the reprisals of Daredevil and the Kingpin, but swapping out established minor characters for a new supporting cast is bullshit, since the older bit characters were great and the new ones blow fat hog. I agree with the first part, but I'm not there yet with the second. There may be some rose-tinted glasses going on with this affection for the Netflix side characters, who are somewhat prone to obnoxious and convenient resets in their motives. Take Foggy Nelson, for example. On paper, his character trajectory appears to be he doesn't know his friend is a superhero, he finds out and isn't supportive, he has an experience to realize his lack of support is inherently selfish, since he is prioritizing his feelings over the actual safety of others, he tolerates his friend's decision without approving of it, he has an experience that allows him to move from basic tolerance to genuine support, and if they really wanted to come full circle, he finishes with some kind of active participation in a way that allows him to take on the superhero role himself. Through the Netflix seasons, Foggy was constantly resetting back to the unsupportive, "You could get hurt and that would make me sad, and how could you do this to me?" phase. They couldn't resist him unlearning anything he experienced and throwing a tantrum to lay a guilt trip on the lead. Like the cliche trope of the unsupportive wife of the cop or soldier that Hollywood productions love so much. When it comes to new supporting characters, well, I think it's too early to judge. They may go in for that fat hog, or there may be something there. I prefer to observe and infer rather than assume too much, and I don't think there's enough data to work with just yet. For world building, we're back to a street-level superhero setting, which is refreshing. If something threatens the planet, galaxy, reality, quantumverse, multiverse, or time itself, the stakes don't get higher for the viewer. They actually do the opposite and just kind of evaporate. Nobody cares about the theoretical concept of a bajillion nameless, faceless people dying, but they do care about the individual characters they've had the chance to make a connection with on screen. If Doctor Strange makes a cameo with any multiverse bullshit in this series, you'll hear me screaming from the crow's nest, "Iceberg ahead, Captain!" Although I don't see that happening. The world building is also trying to embed the show in New York City, rather than a nondescript metropolitan area, as well as something of a pre-Bratton and Giuliani NYC that was close to an open sewer after losing its grip on street crime. Crime rates in the 70s and 80s seem impossibly high from the vantage point of 2025, but they were what they were, and that's a decent setting for a superhero series for obvious reasons. For themes, I see the early foundations being laid to explore the concept of vigilantes, which would be a subcategory of the more general institutional justice versus street justice theme. I see the potential for exploring loss, grief, and guilt, which can be powerful movers of human behavior, which could also be good, although they already delved into those things in Daredevil Season 3, and much like a new comic book arc, it's a good idea to explore some fresh themes with a new season. But on the other hand, the Wilson Fisk Kingpin of Crime mayoral election is an unmistakable allegory for the Donald Trump presidency, which is not clever. With the MCU's phases 3 to 5, we moved from mild social politics references to overt social politics messages to in-your-face, down-your-throat, up-your-butt social politics propaganda. And the Marvel IP hasn't profited by any of it. It's such a are we really going there aspect of the episode. It's not subtle, it's not interesting, and it's not welcome. I'm sorry the last presidential election wasn't competitive, but it's time to get on with life. If they've decided to make this series a vehicle to offer commentary on contemporary issues, viewers are going to steadily decline through the 9 episodes, no matter what else is hitting or missing, since Disney's MCU writers and showrunners live in a self-indulgent fantasy world and have no social or political viewpoints worth considering. So in summary, after the first episode, I'd say the show is standing on the edge of a knife and might continue the balancing act or fall off on either side. It doesn't grab my attention like The Penguin and say, yeah, we've got something here, but it doesn't make me rage quit like Dune Prophecy or shake my head in mild disappointment like Creature Commandos. If they focus on developing themes and the dynamic between Daredevil and Kingpin, it's going to be pretty good. If they focus on launching new characters for brand expansion and showcasing CGI action set pieces, it's going to be pretty mid. And if they fixate on allegorical social political messages, it's going to hemorrhage viewers. Netflix Daredevil Season 1 and 2 are in the Hall of Fame, but the quality of writing went off a cliff when it came to the Defenders crossover, and I'm not sure I even got through Season 3 since the writing was also such a massive downturn from the previous 2 seasons. I'd say the first episode of Daredevil Born Again made me more interested in revisiting Daredevil Season 3 to see if my memory is being a bit harsh, as opposed to checking out what happens next in Episode 2. I'm not sure that's a prescription, but if you don't own the Disney Plus streaming service, I might wait and see before putting any money into this one. There's a lot of people who want Daredevil Born Again to be good, but wanting something doesn't make it so, and the first episode suggests it has the potential to go in almost any direction. But do as you will. Anyway, thanks for the view. I'm Dr. Baltzar. Like what you like, don't what you don't. It's all your call, Kemosabe.